A story like no other. That is how this book has been described. An ordinary man recounts how one man put everything on the line to save his family from the Nazis back in 1938. And I'm chatting with the team who made this book possible, the author, Chris Bach, and the founder and CEO of Story Terrace, Rutger Bruning, are here with us this morning. Great to have you both.
Hi, good morning.
So, Chris,
Hi, good morning.
It's good to have you. So, Chris, tell us about the book and your personal connection to the man at the center of it.
The book basically came out of my grandpa wrote an autobiography, and he told the story of how they escaped Austria, Vienna in particular. And the guy at the center of the book is his uncle, and he just through basically the knowledge in his brain and luck and friends around him, and basically managed to get a job in Japan and bring the entire family over there, one of the people being my grandfather. And then, so yeah, I read my grandpa's autobiography after he passed away, and it kind of, and so I reread it again in 2020.
And that was the inspiration to tell this story.
Yeah, for sure.
What was it in there that made you feel like this is really compelling stuff and other people should be reading this?
There's just a lot of really kind of magical things that happen, so it's fun to read. But you're obviously reading about some really, really difficult times and whatnot. So it creates a lot of emotions in you as you're reading it, because it's a survival story, and it's a true story. So it's very hard to believe that it's actually true. There's points along the story where you're just kind of, I myself, was having a hard time believing it existed, honestly, that story was true. But as the fact that I exist kind of proved it, but I still was skeptical, honestly.
That's really incredible. So, Rutger, tell us about your company, Story Terrace, and the role that it played in creating this book.
Yeah, at Story Terrace, we work with hundreds of writers that we match with people to tell usually their own story. In Chris's case, it's different because he's telling his granduncle's story, but usually we work with people to tell their story, to write their memoirs. Most of these are kept within families, but about 10% of them are published and can be purchased by anyone.
And Rutger, I understand your grandfather inspired you to create Story Terrace.
Yes, that's right. I spent quite a lot of time with my grandfather over the holidays, and he used to tell me stories from the Second World War. He set up a small resistance in the southwest of the Netherlands. He also moved to the Caribbean after the war with my grandmother to start a doctor's practice. He played a lot of sports, and all those stories, they really captivated me. But after he passed away, they faded much quicker than I expected, and I regretted not recording them, which is why I ended up thinking about this problem and trying to solve it and making sure that everyone can capture their family stories in the future.
So, Chris, I'm curious, what do you think your uncle and ancestors would say to you if they were to know what you did with this biography that your uncle or your grandfather, was it, that he had wrote back then?
My grandpa wrote an autobiography about his life, and he, in turn told the story of his uncle, because his uncle saved his life and was a huge part of the family. What was the question again?
I was just wondering what they might think of the work that you've created out of theirs.
I wonder that too. I'm publishing a man's life that, has no say in it, but it was a pretty, he liked to act and do different things. So I think he would be on board with it, but he was a private person. So that, that thought crossed my mind a lot, but yeah, it's a fascinating story, and he was a very kind of private, humble person. So I imagine he would be happy. I kind of think anyone would be happy if someone in the future was, so inspired to tell, their story in such detail. And there's 40 people that exist because of what he did, and we're not, we're not actually his descendants in any way in terms of direct lineage, but we are, like his sister is my, great grandmother. So I'm sure they would be happy. In particular, my grandpa, he wrote his entire life down. So I know that he was trying to tell the story to his kids and keep the story alive. And it really is kind of, my grandpa, it's a continuation of his life in a lot of ways.
It's a powerful legacy. Chris Bach, Rutger Bruning, thank you so much. Great to have you this morning.